Shabbat Shalom, Mishpacha. This is Rabbi Simon Altaf. I'm pretty certain that you can hear me, because if you all have internet and you're connected, then you're connected to source energy. Source energy is up there. You're all connected to source energy. Question is, who's utilizing it and who isn't? Okay, we'll kickstart it a little earlier and let the other people come in as they may. Our Parsha today is Parsha Shalach Lecha from the book of Numbers, chapter 13, verse 1. Now, I will probably look into that a little bit, and I will probably look into the other things a little bit as well. But before I do, I thought maybe I'll go over something else which may be relevant to you and something that you may not have heard of, and something that might be of fascination to you, because let me see if I can open that up and talk about it. Now, is there any questions from previous week or any previous weeks, or are we all good to go? Anybody has any questions, concerns, or we just kickstart it? Shabbat Shalom, Olivia. Shabbat Shalom to all the rabbis, and Shabbat Shalom to YouTubers out there who are going to listen to this message after it's recorded. Baruch Hashem, great Shabbat. We have a wealth of knowledge, and we have a wealth of information at our fingerprints, at fingertips, and you can put your fingers on there and create fingerprints, but question is, do you use it? Are you using it? Or are you just leaving it and letting it collect dust? The best thing that God did for man was God gave man intellect, mind, and gave man speech. That's the two best things that He did for man. One and woman, of course. And the animal world has no mind and no speech, as we do in the humanity side. So it makes a completely different thing. Now, you know that in the Bible, God talks about the Sabbath, and God says in chapter 2 of the Bible, in book of Bereshit, it says, and Elohim ceased, or in some of the Bibles it says rested from all work in the seventh day, because it was appointed as Yom's Sabbath or Yom Shabbat. And then it says ceasing from all labor or resting from all labor. And Elohim allotted an increase upon the seventh day and set it apart, calling it Yom Shabbat, because that in it He had ceased or rested from all His work which Elohim created that needed to be made. Now I want you to note something fundamental. Elohim never came out of the rest. That was it. That's the last statement you heard there. And He never comes out of rest. He never comes from ceasing to do more work. That's it. It's done. It's dusted. So what is that? That is man. Man now has to do the work, and woman has to do the work. God is not doing any more work. God is not doing any more creation. His bit of creation is done. Now it is your turn. What are you creating? You know, like they say, you see these billboards, and on these billboards you have this Uncle Sam pointing his finger towards you. What can you do for your country? Well, in the same way, God has His finger pointing towards you. What are you creating? And in this world today, a lot of people are creating misery, suffering, and hardship. That's what a lot of people are creating, and it's not helping them. It's actually destroying lives, destroying families. So we must know what is it that we are doing wrong, and how do we rectify it. It's easy enough for somebody to see that they are creating something which is of no value and it is destroying their life. Because it's easy enough to see. Anybody who observes themselves or observes from the outside, if somebody else observes that person, they'll say, yeah, that person is poor, or that person is suffering, or that person is in pain, or that person is angry, or that person is having a relationship breakup. It's very easy to see that. But then, who is going to correct it? Somebody from outside is not going to come in to correct it. You have to do the tikkun alam. In Hebrew, tikkun alam is a concept of repairing the breach. What is the breach? Breach could be many things. Could be your life. Could be anything. There was a young lad, and I this is something that I got from a book. This is one of the books out there, and I believe Dr. Murphy spoke about this in his book as well, and Neville Goddard speaks about this in his book. And they said there was a boy called Robert Millikan, and Robert Millikan was a very poor boy, and he knew he was poor, and he got fed up of his poverty. And then one day, he used to like reading. He used to like reading materials that he could get hold of. So he would read books. And one day, he had a great mind though. This poor boy had a great mind to read. And then one day, he said to himself, I'm tired of this poverty. What if I could change my state from within? That means my outside life will change as well. So he set himself a statement, very simple statement, and you can all apply it to your lives, and you can all take this statement as well. I encourage you to take it and put it in your affirmation list. And this is a statement that this little young boy was dirt poor. He took upon himself. He said, I'm going to change my life. I'm tired of this poverty. And he set a statement, an affirmation. I have a lavish, steady, dependable income consistent with integrity and mutual benefit. I have a lavish, steady, dependable income consistent with integrity and mutual benefit. Again, I have a lavish, steady, dependable income consistent with integrity and mutual benefit. The result of this statement, this one statement that this little young boy had put for himself to change his life, that his life completely changed afterwards. He used to recite it daily, religiously, and he became a fortune to companies. He was so rich at his time that he benefited many people. He left a fortune for his sons. He paid for his sons' education, and he made sure that they had money. And before he died a rich man with companies under his name. Just this one statement and belief that he can change his life from dirt, poverty to riches. And you can all do that for yourself. And don't let anybody tell you you can't. But you've got to change yourself within. You cannot try to change the world outside. You will fail if you try to do that. You must change it within. So that is my, 2 cents worth of this poor lad's story. He only needed to construct one sentence. You don't need to be a graduate. You don't need to own a big home to do that. And you don't need to be a student of Oxford University or Harvard. If you can construct one sentence, you can change your life. Now it's up to you what you do with it. But I'll go on forward, and we're going to look at something that the Jewish people suppressed and hid from Christians because Christianity had certain beliefs. And after today, you might think that they were not far wrong. There is an ancient prayer called the prayer of Yeshua. Now, Yeshua, to most people, might be Jesus of Nazareth, but no, to ancient Judaism, this is not Yeshua of Nazareth. They believed Yeshua was a prince. an angel, an archangel, or even an angel very close to God, that he had many faces. So they constructed a prayer, and it was called the prayer of Yeshua. And this prayer was only sung at Rosh Hashanah, the secular the secular Hebrew New Year, or the Year of the Kings. So they sang that prayer, but today they don't do it, by the way. Today many synagogues won't even touch this prayer because of Christianity all around them, because they know that Christians will get the wrong idea, or they will use this to promote Jesus of Nazareth as God. So this Yeshua is a prince of Metatron. This is the same Yeshua that met Jacob in the book of Genesis, in what's called the Old Testament. He was also, by the way, he was related to Hashem, very close. And this is kind of interesting, that this prayer, I'll read the translation for you. May it be the will before your faces, Elohai Hashem, the Elohim of the fathers, that the blowing of our Takiyah, Shavrim Takiyah, that we sound today, may be embroidered upon the curtain with the hand of Tatiel, appointed for it. Similarly, may it be accepted by Eliyahu, may he be remembered for good, and Yeshua, the Prince of the Faces and Prince of Metatron, and may you be filled with mercies over us. Blessed are you, O Lord of the mercies. Now, Hashem here was shortened as it was a custom in the Second Temple period. The shofar blasts are mentioned in there as shortened acronyms. The Tatiel is another angel's name. He is embroidered on the curtains, which means that the curtains in the ancient times at the temple and tabernacle existed, covering the Holy of Holies. And Tatiel, it shows that he was before the throne of glory. Yeshua here was identified by the Prince of Metatron, who's basically, the Western world doesn't know who the Prince of Metatron is. And the origin behind it was that when Enoch was transfigured, or when he ascended up, and his halakha, he was towards Torah his entire life, then he was given a new name, Metatron, and he was appointed as a heavenly scribe. And he is now in charge of the books that contain our deeds and the book of life. So, in this case, the books known as Sar HaSefarim, but Enoch's new name then was written in a sense like now Yeshua is over Enoch. He's above him. So Yeshua is both Prince of Faces and Prince over the books, because he's above Enoch. Now Moses was aware of the books, because Moses wrote about it in Exodus 32, verse 32. When you read it, Exodus 32, if I can pull it up, and verse 32 goes such as this. It says, "Yet now, if you will forgive their sin, and if not, blot me, I pray thee out of your book which you have written." Now here it talks about the book. And Yahweh said unto Moses, "Whoever has sinned against me, I will only blot out his name from my book." So there is a book mentioned here. Now in the book of Acts, it says, "Repent ye therefore, and turn again, that your sins may be blotted out." Blotted out from where? From the books. So there may come seasons of refreshing from the presence of the Lord. The presence here is the same deal that is known as to the faces of the Lord, or the Shekinah. But Christians mostly are ignorant of what is presence and what is Shekinah. But the Jews understood that point very well. That's why they suppressed this prayer because they decided that if we allow this prayer to continue, then Christians are going to be more adamant that Jesus is God and etc. And they'll give more. So you could say that the Jews are powering that idea. So they just totally removed it. Ibrahim bin Israel, he was a scholar in the ancient times. He gave his students and Jews a permission 1,000 years ago to study the book of Revelation. Book of Revelation written by John. In that, Yeshua is addressed in the Kahillah, is addressed as he that overcometh shall be arrayed in white garments, and I will no more, and I will in no wise blot his name out of the book of life. That's in Revelation 3 verse 5. Notice that it begins with Yeshua the Prince, with the word Sar. And so, this copies of this book can be found, the ancient New Testament from 1,000 years ago, or even more than 1,000 years ago, can be found in the British Library. I've actually seen it myself. I've seen these books over there. It has a shin instead of samech. And here Yeshua declares that he is over the books now. He is a prince over Metatron. This to Christians would be the same Yeshua. Jews knew that. Hence why they would not publicly chant this prayer. So this is why Jacob, our forefather, he saw the faces of God too. In the Old Testament, in the Torah, we see an incident with Jacob where an angel comes and he wrestles with him all night, and then he gives him a new name in the book of Genesis, in the chapter 32. And the Midrash, in there the face of God is mentioned. Peniel means face of God. There's two names mentioned. There's one name mentioned, in fact two in Genesis 32. Peniel, Penuel, depends how you translate it. And in there, if I can go there, Genesis 32:29, Genesis 32, verse 29, it says, and Jacob asked him and said, tell me, I pray thee, your name. And he said, why is it that you ask my name? And he blessed him there. And Jacob called the name of the place Peniel. And then he said, for I have seen God face to face, and my life is preserved. Now remember, you are taught through the same Torah that you can't see God's face and live. Then how did Jacob see his face? Well, if you can't see God's face and live, then how did Moses see his face and live? So these are different aspects to God's face. So the Midrash comments that Jacob saw the face of God in the Holy Spirit, in the Shekinah. And then the wrestling match of Jacob with the angel gave rise among the sages of old, saying that this is a messianic passage. The Targum Onklios stated that the angel of the Lord is basically, they said, who is the angel of the Lord? And who is Penuel? And then Isaiah 63:9, he presented a similar passage in which it says, in all their distresses he too was distressed, and the angel of his presence, again the countenance, the face expression, says, saved them. In his love and mercy he redeemed them. He lifted them up and carried them all the days of old. So the rabbis then said that the angel of the presence meant angel of the covenant, the prince of the countenance. In Hebrew, the phrase was Sar HaPanim, literally meaning the prince of the faces or countenance. Rabbi David Kimchi said of Malachi, the prophet, chapter 3, verse 1, it says, the Lord who will suddenly come to his temple. He said, this Lord is a Messiah king, and he is the Lord of the covenant, Mikraoth Gedoloth. So, from this, I guess Messianics or other Christians could conclude that Jacob had a Messianic experience, that he beheld the face of the Messiah, according to this tradition. And then there are other traditions regarding Sar HaPanim, the prince of the faces, in ancient Jewish literature. So, what does this actually mean? It simply means this, that the Jews knew that technically this could be applied to Jesus of Nazareth. So they deliberately suppressed it. Now, I'm not saying, whether Jesus is God, not God, Messiah, not Messiah, but you can see from the ancient tradition that there is evidence that points to that. Now, whether you believe Jesus is Lord or not, that's entirely up to you. That's your choice. What you do with it is your choice. But this is just a presentation that the possibilities exist of that. Now, when Yeshua was present on the earth, he taught the law, the perfect law, which is the law of manifesting. He taught it clearly. But many people mistook his statements and tried to make them something that were not, and it caused all sorts of issues and problems. Hence why, leading to his death. So, coming back to that, if we come back to our little Parsha again, Parshas, we go to Numbers chapters 13, Parshas Shalach Lecha, and it reads, and Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, send you men that they may search the land of Canaan, which I give to the children of Israel, of every tribe of their Ahavoth, fathers. Shall you send a man, every one a ruler among them? And Moshe, by the commandment of Yahweh, sent them from the wilderness of Paran, all those men who were the heads of the children of Israel. Then it mentions a lot of names, like different tribes. It mentions tribe of Reuben, Shemua, the son of Zohor. Basically mentions these different names. You may have famously come to know it as the 12 spies. And it also mentions that after it mentions the names, it says, these are the names of the men which Moshe sent to spy out the land. And Moshe called Oshia, the son of Nun, Yehoshua. And Moshe sent them to spy out the land of Canaan, and said to them, get up this way southward, and go up into the mountain, and see the land what it is, and the people that dwell in, whether they be strong or weak, few or many. I want to mention over here that two things were mentioned in this particular passage of Scripture. One was that the people are very strong. Two, because you can see that, when these spies, or when these people came back, 10 of the spies, they were very grievous, and they brought some evidence, and the evidence that was brought back was pomegranates, figs, and grapes. And it says that in verse 23 of their passage, it says, and they came to the brook of Eshcol, and cut down from there a branch with one cluster of grapes, and they bare it together upon a staff, and they brought of the pomegranates of the figs. Now it's very important to understand this. In verse 26 it says, and they went and came to Moshe and to Aaron, and to all the congregation, the children of Israel, to the wilderness of Paran, to Kadesh, and brought back word to them and to all the congregation, and showed them the fruit of the land. And of course, they made mention of the fact that the land was flowing with milk and honey. It was a very prosperous land, and the people very strong. Strong walls. Sons of Anak, giants. Now, what do we learn from this on the side of spiritual side? What's another face? Let's just say, what's another face of this in the Torah? The other face of this from the Torah is, how do we apply it today in 2020 in our homes, basically? That's what I'm asking. I'm not interested in what was back then, and what happened in the land and what they saw. What I want to ask the question is, how can I use this information to better my life? How can I use this spiritually or physically, and how does this benefit me today in 2020, June, 20th of June? And it's very simple. If you read it carefully, you may actually understand it, and you may not, because it depends what eyes you use, depends what face God is showing you. Here is showing you a number of things. The south side of your house is very important. As we have spoken in the past, in the Chinese tradition, Feng Shui is used. Feng Shui wind and water. And Rabbi Kefa, your wife will know this. Feng Shui is all to do with the setting of the house and where you place what. In Feng Shui, in order to attract abundance, you will place things in the southeast of the house. And here, south is mentioned of the land of Israel. And it's also mentioned that that is the strong part of the house. Strong men and big fruit, Can you think today of having a cluster of grapes on a staff? People will laugh at you. You put a little packet of grapes on there, people will start laughing. What are you doing, you mad? But the grapes they were carrying were huge, big. Maybe one grape was the size of the packet you buy from Walmart these days. So my point, that the south side of your house is a very important zone. Think of your house as different zones, different areas. So what should you do? Well, it tells you, it gives you 3 fruits. It gives you grapes, it gives you pomegranate, and it gives you figs. Absolutely, Rabbi Kefa. The real deal temple is in the south of Israel, not in the north or not in some other part of Jerusalem. So, Shabbat Shalom Yaqub. So, having said that, so what can you do? How do you utilize it? You remember when I taught you that when you buy a set-top fountain, a tabletop fountain, you must place it in the south side of your house, southeast, more precisely, because that's where it attracts abundance and energy that comes from outside, money energy, wealth energy. So another way to look at it is if you're going to place fruits in your house, and it may not be real fruits, you could put fake fruits, you could put a fake pomegranate, figs, and grapes. You must place them in the south side of your house, southeast, more precisely, by the way. But you can also put real fruits. You can put real, pomegranate, get 1 pomegranate, get 1 set of grapes, or maybe a few grapes, and get some figs, and place them in a little bowl, and place them in the southeast of your house. That will attract abundance. That is the strong side of your house, by the way. This is actually true in the Indian tradition as well. Also in the Indian tradition. I was speaking to a guru this morning. Baruch Hashem, that I was fortunate to get a guru through a student of mine. I was having some questions with him. And I asked him some questions to this guru. And he's a nice man. He's a really nice man. And I asked him some questions that I know from our tradition. The Hebrew tradition of the temple and the altars. And there's a kind of question related to an altar. So I asked him a question. I said, there is a tradition that we have, how we build our altars and what we do with them. And there is a tradition that you have, that how you build your little altars and what you do with them. And of course I reminded him that my forefathers, Abraham's ancestors, they came from India. So they carried all the Indian traditions. So it would be foolish to say that our ancestors were Africans, because they were not Africans. Africans don't even know half of what we did. They don't even eat the same food that the Bible mentions. So Africans were not children of Israel at any time. We can't mix the sons of Ham with the sons of Shem. So I explained to him the things, and he then went and he gave me some instructions of how they do things. And then I asked him some questions regarding metals used, whether copper, whether metal, whether earth, and the answer we derived at was that earth is the best form to build that particular altar as they do it. And I know that in the Bible it also says the same thing, that when you build an altar, build it on the earth. So do you see how we correlate with each other and where we get all these traditions from? Because you might think they're all new traditions, but they're not new. They actually came from ancient India. Hence why the connection with ancient India and King Solomon, ancient India and Jesus, those connections did exist. There's a tradition that Jesus as a boy went to ancient India. Ancient India had the best universities at the time to teach people for study. And they were not, studying English literature. They were studying wisdom literature. And that's when Jesus came back. He started teaching wisdom literature to his people. But the people could not grasp it because they were stuck with the religious ideologies. And today, I can guarantee you that if you start speaking with people who call themselves Christians, and you start speaking wisdom literature, which is what you're learning here, Torah is all about wisdom, they will reject you, or they will say you're gone mad, or they'll say you're in witchcraft, because they have no knowledge of our ancient tradition, where they came from, what we did, and why we did them. It's very, very important. And you will see that. This is why I say that God always offers you two choices. God says, I can give you life. God says, I present before you life, and I present before you death. And he then goes so far as to say, choose life. But most people, the counter, most people choose death. Hence why my earlier analogy that most people today, they rather live in death. They rather live in their misery. And misery makes good company. If there's one miserable person, and you're also miserable, and you help them become more miserable, they'll be happy. Because now there's two miserable people in the room, and they're both happy to be miserable with each other. So miserable likes company. Miserable likes miserable company. But if you're happy, and the other person is miserable, you're going to have a clash. Because the other person wants to see you miserable as well. But you're not miserable like them. You're not going to make good company. You're going to have a clash. One person has to go. So this is actually the reality in our real world. People choose misery over happiness. And then they wonder, why am I not happy? Why am I miserable? And people say, why am I poor? Why is that person over there rich? A lot of these things happening today. It's all around us. You can go to your families and you'll find it in your families all over the place. People sitting down and they're whining and they're complaining. Whining and complaining. That's the order of the day mostly. And they want you to whine and complain as well. And if you whine and complain, then they're really happy with you. But if you don't whine and complain, they're going to be angry. They're not going to like you. Why you got a smile on your face? Why you got a nice car to drive? Why aren't you miserable like me? People like misery. But you don't want to be in a miserable place. Toxic people will bring toxicity in your life. And those are the kind of people that you don't want to be with. Because they themselves cannot do nothing. Not that they don't have it, they can. Of course, if they wanted to, they can instantly change their life. Just like that poor boy. Remember that poor boy, what he decided to do. He said, I'm tired and fed up of my poverty. Robert said, I'm fed up of my poverty. I need to do something about it. So the only thing he could do was use his mind. And he used his mind to the best of his ability. And that mind use instantly translated his life from poverty into riches. And he didn't say, I will become rich. He didn't say, I will have the riches. He said, I have it now. I have it right now. I have this money. And he started to put his belief, put his energy, put everything into it. Young little boy. Somebody will look at him and say, little toddler over there, doesn't know what the heck he is doing. But this young little boy, in his poverty, was a very wise little kid. And he left a legacy for his children. So therefore, what's the point? The point is very simple. I came across a story in the Talmud. And the story is of Honi, the circle drawer. And Honi the circle drawer was an interesting rabbi. He was an interesting teacher. And he was one that he would, one time there was, Israel depends on rains. And one time there was no rain in Israel. And he came and he drew a circle. And went into the circle and he said, I'm not coming out of this circle until you send rain. He said to God, I'm not coming out of the circle until you send rain. And of course, he was in the circle. He kept insisting on God to send rain. He manifested rain. It started to pour. It started to drizzle first. He said, no, I want you to send more rain. Then it started to pour down real heavy. He said, no, I want you to not pour down real heavy, but send me calm rain. Then the rain slowed down to calm rain. He manifested all three types of rain. And then he came out of his circle. Then people said, some of the people that were around him, your so-called, in quotes, Jewish rabbis, ignorant idiots who today, label themselves with rabbis who know nothing. So what did they say? They said, this man is committed avera. This man is committed a violation. How can he say to God, send me rain, otherwise I will not come out? How dare he say that? They put a little fatwa on him. This little fatwa, like this little deal about he is going to go to prison for this, or we're going to put him away. So they set up this little charge against him that he will not be able to do this again and dishonor God. They said he dishonored God, but he didn't see it dishonoring God. And then they actually charged him with that. And then it was one of the queens over there in Israel, one of the ladies who was a wealthy lady and in a position of authority at the time. She's the one who had him released and said, no, Coney has a different relationship with God to everybody else. Don't treat him the same way as everybody else. He's not like you. He's different. His relationship is different. He can say that to God. He can say to God, send me rain, otherwise I'm not coming out. All Coney did was, he manifested rain in front of the people. And instead of being thankful to him, they hated him. My point, I bring you back to my original point, the jury. If you are manifesting good stuff in your life, you're going to be hated by those who can't. That's my point. Coney did something else that a lot of people don't know. Coney went to a man and he was planting a carob tree. And he said to the man that, how long will this tree take to grow? He said, 70 years. He said, but how will you benefit from the fruit? He said, my children will benefit from the fruit. Because Coney had a problem with the passage in the Bible that spoke about that the children of Zion will dream dreams. And he had a problem with that passage. He said, how can the children of Zion dream dreams? And how can they be, 70 years? He said, how can they be 70 years in exile in Babylon? How can they dream dreams when they're 70 years in exile? He had a problem with one of the passages. And when he met this man who was planting a carob tree, when he asked him, he said, when are you going to experience the fruit of this tree? He said, I won't. He said, this will take 70 years. He said, but my sons will. And so the story goes that Coney went away thinking about that mysteries. How is that going to work? And then he went away, and the story is that he went and slept in a cave or near a cave, and then this cave grew around him. And the story says that Coney was asleep for 70 years. He fell asleep for 70 years. He came out after 70 years, and it was a different world. Of course, all the previous world, the previous generation had gone. It was a new generation. And Coney came out and everything was different. And he went telling people, I'm Coney. And they said, no, you're not. You're not Coney. Coney is long gone. We don't know where he disappeared 70 years ago. And he said, is Coney's son around? He said, yeah, Coney's son is around. And then Coney understood the point about that carob tree, that Coney's son would enjoy the carob tree. And he went around telling everybody, I'm Coney, I'm Coney. And you know what they said? You're deluded. You're in delusion. Coney's long gone. We don't even know where he is. So apparently, the tradition goes that Coney died. Afterwards, he died in depression because nobody would believe him. This is a tradition, by the way. Now make of it whatever you want to. But my point is very simple. Coming back to our point of the story, if your focus is on a problem all the time, then the problem will never go away. The problem will cement into, it will cement until it becomes a real, like a brick. Anything that you put in your mind and you cement, it will become like a brick, harden into a brick or a concrete or a rock. Then you will not be able to shift it so easily. So, what if you did the opposite? What if instead of a problem, you saw a solution to your life? Like this little boy, Robert. He saw a solution to his life. And he said, I'm not going to concentrate and focus on my problem. What's my problem? I'm poor. That's a problem, by the way. That wasn't the boy. The boy is not the problem. The problem is just something that the boy is experiencing. So, Robert was just experiencing a problem. But the problem wasn't the lad. The lad was separate from the problem. So the lad said, I have a problem in my life. I'm poor. I need to deal with the problem. I'm not going to continue to focus my entire energy on the problem. What is my solution? So when you have a problem, yesterday there was a lady I spoke with, and I asked the lady, she gave me a little bit information about herself. And I asked her this question twice. I said, what is it that you want? And then she started to talk about the problem again. And I said, what do you want, lady? Then again she started to explain the problem. And so I brought her back and I said, what do you want? And then she paused and said, oh, okay, Rabbi, yeah, I would like this. And I said, do you want this to happen? She said, yes, I would like this to happen. So I said, let me give you a solution to your problem. Stop focusing on the problem. Let's start focusing on the solution instead. And this is the solution. It was a game changer in the conversation. So always in your life, and I can assure you that lady's life will completely now change after I gave her the solution. Yesterday in a short conversation. And this is why I said to you, people in the East are waiting for me to come and give them many solutions. They are waiting for my 5-minute conversation. All they're going to get is 5-minute conversation maybe with me, maybe 10 minutes. But that 5 or 10 minutes conversation is going to change their entire life. They're not interested in theology because they can go to churches and get their theology. They can go to mosques and get their theology. Theology hasn't helped them. But this man, when he sits in their presence, then God will be present. And then they will receive their solution. That's the difference. You see, you can either exercise God or you can exercise your problem. But choose wisely. And your choices will determine where your children live in the future. Remember Coney's story. Remember the story of the carob tree. The man planted the carob tree so that his children could enjoy the carob tree. And yes, when that man disappeared for 70 years, when Rabbi Coney disappeared, Rabbi Coney came back and he said, what about that man with the carob tree? Where is this carob tree today? And they said, the carob tree is grown. His children, his sons are enjoying the carob tree's fruit. But the man is dead, the one who planted it. So, all of you today, what you plant is what your children are going to, you will enjoy it too. But more so, your children will enjoy it, and your children's children will enjoy it. And they will say, our father was a wise man. My father was a wise man. He left me all this. What a wise father I had. Thank God that he was in Torah, and thank God that he had the Kohen to teach him. That's what your children will be saying. But your children will not be thinking about, I am poor and what do I do about it? They'll be thinking instead, I have lots of money. Where shall I invest it for more investment, for more money to come into my life? That's where your children will be. So you've been given an ample opportunity to change yours and your children's life forever. And this is where you want to be. You don't want to be in a place of regret, holding on to problems. You want to be in a place of happiness. This is why I said when God went into resting, do you read wherever? Do you read anywhere in the scripture? Do you read anywhere in the Torah? Do you read in the Torah that says God came out of rest? It doesn't say anywhere in the Torah God came out of rest. God rested, which means now it's your time. Since God is at rest, you have now got to start creating. You have got to start producing because you're exercising the God within you, the kingdom within you. You're exercising it, and you can produce anything you desire. You can produce good, you can produce evil. It's your choice. It's entirely up to you now what you produce. Because you've been granted the kingdom, the keys of the kingdom. You have the keys of the kingdom. You just need to know how to open that door. It's right in front of you. You've been given the method, and it's up to you now whether you open the door or whether you shut it. So with that, I'm going to leave you. I'm going to love you and leave you with this blessed Shabbat. I'm going to hand it over to Rabbi Kefa that he may take over. Baruch Hashem Yahweh. Have a great Shabbat.
Shabbat Shalom to all of you. If I can be heard, can I get a one? I want to, it's a changing diapers and doing all kind of things over here. It's great. It's great that we can multitask, right? To Rabbi for your just on point instruction and guidance. That if utilized will change your life. Will change your life. Will change for your children and your children's children going forward. That's where we are. Shabbat Shalom to all of you, and to for your responses, by the way. I would like to start with this question going forward. First of all, to all the fathers in the room, I'd like to wish you happy birthday on tomorrow. How many fathers? Capital F if you're a father. All you fathers in the room, a happy Father's Day to you. My hat goes off to you. I'm part of the club now. I'm also a father now. This is my first Father's Day. Well, I'm truly excited and truly humbled and very, very happy to be a part of the club, Baruch Hashem. And, very, very, very happy, just elated over here. I'm a kid in the chocolate store, Baruch Hashem. I give thanks. So, happy Father's Day to all of you. I look at my son Nakshan, who's 9 months old now, Baruch Hashem, and I say, I give thanks. I give thanks to my father, my spiritual father and brother from the same mother, Hakoyi, because he made all this happen. And this is one thing that I would like to say to all the fathers, is that, we have our day to be honored, but it's not just a day. We fathers 365, am I correct? 365 days out of the year, you're a father. Not just one day of honor and then, 364 days of disrespect. That's not how we roll. But we're fathers 365 days out of the year. And I would encourage you all to get this understanding is that you have to, we have spiritual fathers, we fathers that brought us into this world. And, what I've been meditating on, and as I look at my life, I understand the role of a father. The role of a father is really limited because, the child will get to a point where they will have to decide for themselves. Now, during that time where the father has influences, during the time where the child is a child, and we can go back to our books and get understanding on this when we're told to raise up a child in the way or he or she should go, and when old they want to depart. You understand what that means? So you have to raise the child when the child is a child. You can't start trying. How many of you know what I'm talking about? You can't start trying to raise a child when the child is a man and he's 35 and he's still living with. You know what I mean? You cannot. That just does not happen. According says today is solar eclipse. The timing is at 12:49 a.m. Eastern to 4:09 a.m. Eastern. Is a solar eclipse tonight. It will not be seen here, but only seen in the east over Pakistan, India, and Tibet. This time you recite your affirmations. It's a very powerful time to do so. So for those of you who are listening via YouTube and those of you live in the room, take heed, take it to heart, and put it to action, and it will benefit you if you so desire to do so. So, we have, and now, if I could pry into your personal lives for a minute, you men in the room, face it, if your father's still alive, how much emphasis, and I don't mean this in a negative way, but how much influence does your father have on your life today, really? My father, and let me tell you from my side, he kind of sits like on the sideline. He's there, but, it's time for me to go out and do what I need to do. You know what I mean? Not to fall back on my father because he's there, but you know what I mean? And I'm not discounting the father role because the father role is very important. And the father, my father, I look, a lot of my makeup, a lot of my character comes from my father because I watched what he did. You know what I mean? So it's like my father's there, but I really don't lean on him that much because now that I am a father myself, I understand that I have to pave my own way with the foundation that I have of my father. Not that I don't take advice from my father today, because I still do. I believe I take heed, but again, how the decision-making process is not the same as when I was at teenager, when I was growing up under my father's roof. Now I have my own roots. You know what I mean? So I have to, be that leader and give guidance and give action that's going to be beneficial to my family. It's so important. How many of you in this room understand that Israel is family? Family. We're not these, individuals that's divided up into, this, that, the other. No, we're a family. You must understand that we're truly a family. And it's very important that we go back to that family role of father, mother, sons, and daughters. That's important. Because we've been dispersed into these nations, and you'll see a lot of times that the family model has been broken. How many I'm talking about? And I can speak big time for North America. Is that the family structure, as you may know it in ancient times, has been broken to where you see a lot of single parent family homes. And I'm not knocking the single family parent homes, but that's not the original model. The original model is mother, father, to have a husband and a wife. That's real. That's real. That's the model. Now, through evolution over time, people have, decided to do their own way, and you don't see that as much anymore. For a family to sit down and get together for dinner, that's unheard of today, Brit. I will tell you that right now. That's very unheard of. Now, I tell you one of the positivities of, what did Corona do? Corona brought the family right back to the table. Because not only are you eating dinner together, you eat breakfast and lunch and snacks together. Am I correct? So, that's one of the positivities of Corona, is that they brought that model back of sitting down together as a family. Now, I know in some of your conditioning you may believe, and you may think, well, Rabbi, I don't have a husband. Rabbi, I don't have a wife. That's very important to have. Now, if you don't have that, I'm not rushing you into a matrimony. I'm not doing that, but I'm telling you, and guarantee you, if the women in this room, if some of you would be a watcher and a witness to what I say here when I make this statement, you will agree with me, is that, King is a spiritual father for many, many, many folks world over. He's a spiritual father as well as a physical father to many, 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 many people, many, many persons. And if for the single women in this room, you're single, I want to encourage you to really understand that Israel is still a family, and that I'm not pushing you into matrimony, to marriage, but what I'm telling you is this, is that the single women in this room who have, for whatever reason, have not married yet because they just haven't found that right one to attach to get into the covering of, I get that. But for those of you who have not done that, and you listen to the instruction here, and you got under the covering of your spiritual father, the Kohen and the gate, that father that, you can go to for instruction and guidance, I guarantee you will say this as watchers and witnesses, and as, with experience, just this, is that my life has changed considerably under the covering of the Kohen, my spiritual father, or for some of you, you may consider him like a spiritual husband to you, because you don't have a husband, than it was without being under that covering. Now, there's some single women in the room, and that statement I just said, if that resonates with you, could you just, respond to that any kind of way, put up whatever, if you know what I'm talking about? Like, your life has transformed being under the covering. Can you see? You haven't found that one for you yet, hadn't turned up, but you didn't let that keep you down. You got under the covering of, you may call him your spiritual husband, your spiritual father, whatever you want to call him. But you under that covering of the Kohen, and you've been guided from strength to strength, from strength to strength. You've been instructed, and you follow through with instruction, and you continue to do so as you continue to go through your journey of this life and meet your marks. Because contrary to popular belief, it's definitely single women in the room. Contrary to popular belief is that you can still meet your marks without a man, without a husband. You know what I mean? And I guarantee you that there's single women in this room that are still meeting their marks. Yet they haven't found that right covering for themselves. And you know what? As long as they continue to do the necessary, because I'll be the first to tell you not to jump in some mamby-pamby relationship. I'll be the first to tell you from experience that doesn't work. And 90.9% of the time, those relationships turn out to be, crash and burn, if you know what I mean. Excuse the pun. But they turn out to be unsuccessful. So and a lot of the women in this room, you come from backgrounds of unsuccessful relationships, right? And you don't use that as negative fuel, but you use that experience to make you, like I was told by Hakoy today, to make you a better person, right? All these things that happened in the past was to make you a better person. Am I correct? And today they have made you a better person if you have utilized experiences in a positive way. What do you mean by in a positive way? And not sitting here and dwelling on the negativity of the past experience. But you went through the experience did happen, you can't, and then you take that energy, you propel you forward. You know what I mean? Baruch Hashem. I mean, this is not some mamby-pamby religious mumbo-jumbo trying to read out of the Bible and get goosebumps and go home and still be unhappy, miserable, depressed, busted and disgusted, and all that negativities out there. I'm not going to sit here. I'm not going to sit here and just, just give you what you want. I'm going to give you what you need. I'm going to give you what you need based on what I have experienced and what I've realized that works based on testing and based on the evidence that's on the ground, just like I get from my teacher. It just matriculates, it just comes down. It's so very, we understand that. So very important. Because I really want to understand this. I can give a flying clue how you started in this life. You see, in the markets, I'm a banker. I have a banker's mindset. I am a bank. And mentality, we say this. And when you look at the markets, I know we have some market watchers in here, right? Eddie's and Daniel. In the market, they say this. How many of you heard this in the market? They say, it doesn't matter how the stock market opens. It matters how the stock market closes. How many of you heard that statement before? It doesn't matter. They'll tell you. You get the gurus, they'll get up there and they tell you, it doesn't matter how the stock market opens. It matters how the stock market closes. It's all in the close of the market. And you can take that and you can apply that even to our history, our rich history as Hebrews. Doesn't matter how you started coming out of Egypt. It matters how you finish coming out of Egypt. You get what I'm saying? And thus you can say this statement changes. It doesn't matter how you start, Mishpah. It matters how you finish. How do you finish? But most of the time, a lot of folks, they focus on the start. They'll waste their whole energy. Oh, well, brother, I had this, and it kind of reminded me of what Hakoy was talking about, dealing with the lady that had phoned into him. You sit here and all of your energy is on the start. Well, I didn't start with 40 acres and a mule. I didn't start with a silver spoon in my mouth. We was very poor. So what? It doesn't matter how you start. Oh, well, I never got a good education. So what? It doesn't matter how you start. What matters is how you're going to finish this journey. Doesn't matter how you start. We all come from different starting backgrounds, right? Some from a middle-class family, some from wealthy families, and some from poor families. But that doesn't mean that that's how you have to finish. But we use the start. A lot of folks do, not all of us. And this is why you must be students of human nature, so you can study this to make you what? A better person. To make you what? Miss these stumbling blocks that may come in your way, these obstacles that may try to detour you in your journey. Doesn't matter how you start. Oh, well, I come from one of them broken homes that you're talking about, Rabbi. So it's just going to continue on in a vicious cycle. So I married and divorced 10 times because I came from that same background. Doesn't matter how you start, it matters how you finish. How you going to finish, Mishpahah? So the question I have for you today is right out of the books as we deal with the milk and honey. What is your milk and honey today? If I would ask you, what would you consider your milk and honey? What is your milk and honey? You all know our history. Israel was promised coming out of Egypt to go into a land that's flowing with milk and honey. What would you consider your milk and honey today, Mishpahah? It's important that you understand. You see, because you have to have a beginning and then you have to have an ending point. This is Mark Makers 101. It's okay. You have to start somewhere. You have to start at a point and then you want to get to a point B. And then when that destination is met, then you can close the case and open another mark maker for yourself. So ask yourself this question this day. What is milk and honey to you in 2020? Is it a new car? Is it that husband? Is it a house on a hilltop? Is it that wife? Loving and loyal wife? Is it what? Is it, $100 million in the bank? Is it billionaire boys club status? What is milk and honey to you? Because milk and honey to all of us is going to vary. You have to what milk and honey is. The $1 billion boys club? Is that what that BBB stands for? $1 billion boys club? Bukashir? But what is your milk and honey? You see, you have to know these things. When our forefathers left Egypt, a lot of them left Egypt with no vision. They only were told that they were going to go into a land flowing with milk and honey. But a lot of them couldn't see that. You know why I know that? Because the case study says and shows us that how many of those that came out of Egypt actually saw the land flowing with milk and honey. They actually went in and entered the land. Think about that for a minute. Our history gives us many lessons. Not lessons to just read in storybooks, but lessons to learn from so that we don't make those mistakes and so that we can become better persons. I read our history, our rich history as Hebrews, as the children of Israel, and I say this. Thank you for going through these experiences, ancestors, so that I can learn from them and I can become a better person. Because at the end of the day, I want to be what? A better person. A better person, a better father, a better husband, a better co-worker, a better citizen to my state. Baruch Hashem. So, when I ask you about milk and honey, that's real. Some of you don't want the milk and some of you don't want the honey, and that's okay, because what? You have served up the recipe for you not getting it, and you won't get the milk, and you won't get the honey. You understand what I'm saying? And that's just real, because that's what you want for yourself. You served up the recipe for what you desire. And some of you don't desire anything. And that's why you get nothing. Yet, you want to blame it on God. God has nothing to do with it. It's all about, that's what has to do with it. It's all about yourself. This is reality 101 in your journey. You got to face reality, and you got to stare reality in the face when you look at the woman in the mirror, when you look at that man in the mirror. That's what you must do. You can't sit here wishing and dreaming when you don't have direction, you don't have guidance, and you're disobedient to instruction. True instruction that's going to give you the materials that you need on the face of this earth. How many of you know to dominate this earth, you have to have materials on this earth? You can't go through this earth butt about naked and think you're going to dominate the earth. You're going to be seen as kind of, weird because you don't have any clothes on. You must be clothed with the raw materials to dominate. You see? Yahweh says, I want all that. I want all that and then some. I am all of that and then some. Baruch Hashem. All of that meaning what that? What is that? That. What is that? That you want that. That. So it's very important that we gear ourselves and we situate ourselves in such a way that can be successful and focus on being successful and focus on the success and not on, well, this is where I started. Focus on your finish and meet your finish. And then when you meet that finish, guess what? Then you can begin a whole nother focus and take it to a whole nother level, Baruch Hashem. You don't have to be one-sided. Mishpah. It's your milk and honey. What is your milk and honey on this earth? You see, everybody wants to go back to the land. But they don't have milk and honey mentality. So what's the use of going back to the land, meaning Israel, when you don't have milk and honey mentality? Do you think the land is going to receive you? The land will reject you, Mishpah. So the mentality is that we must get the milk and honey status for ourselves. And that's going to vary amongst each and every one of us. Because what is your milk may not be my milk, and what honey may not be my honey. I like honey right from the bee. I don't go and buy honey from Walmart and all that. I go buy honey from the farmer and get it right from the beehive with the hive. How many of you buy your honey like that? I like my honey, and I'm eating a honeycomb. You know they call it the honeycomb? Man, I'm eating that too. I want all that. So these are things that we really must consider going forward. Learn the lessons of our rich history. Learn the lessons. Take heed to the lessons. Never forget the lessons. This is why we were given the commandment of the tzitzit in this parsha, so that we can remember. Not to sit there and just dwell on the memory. Oh, man. Yeah, I remember our forefathers, they had it so rough. But look at you today in 2020. Have you really had it that rough? Has your journey really been that bad? We have to put things into perspective and get the proper mindset. Fathers in the room, mothers in the room, husbands in the room, wives in the room, children of Israel, Baruch Hashem. We have to get the right perspective. And in every situation, always try to, don't try, look for the positivity, because there's always going to be positivity in the room. Positivity is always there. You just got to find it. You just got to attract the positivity to you. That's all you have to do. You just attract the positivity to you. And you will be attracted to the positivity. Interesting case study out there about they put a whole bunch of people in a room and everybody's just talking and having a conversation. And if you ever know the students of human nature, is that people will gravitate to certain groups. Some of you know, you see this a lot in like high school, but you do see it more in the corporate world as well. Even in the medical field, you see that. It's that, like, you know how when they have the Christmas parties or they get together, and you'll see that, you sit there and notice is that, people gravitate certain groups. And you'll see that. You can tell, if you study human nature, you can tell who's an energy drawer and who's an energy attractor. You see? And what kind of energy it is. Because you get your groups around the water cooler that gossip. You get your groups around the water cooler that's, all about family and positivity, talking about the family and how the children growing up and blah, blah, blah. You get your other groups that, around the water cooler that they're all about coming up and productivity. How can they increase their sustainability? Increase their productivity. So you get all these kind of groups. I've never been one to gravitate towards groups, Yeshua. I've never been. I've always put myself over to the side, and guess what? It will come to me. I began to have a conversation with folks, and then before you know, there's more folks around, and there's more folks. Examine yourself and see what kind of person you are. What are you saying, well, Rabbi? I'm not doing too much of that right now because I'm in quarantine, I'm on lockdown, and blah, 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 blah. But look back, or even, use this study in the future, your study of human nature. See where you are. You're all capable. You are energy at the end of the day, and you're very capable of doing what you desire for yourself. You all have that capacity within you. You have the tools. Some of you just don't realize. Some of you have the tools. You know you have them, but maybe you don't utilize them properly. And some of you have the tools and you really just don't care. You're just looking for a handout at the end of the day. You're looking at something to come to you freely without even putting in any kind of application for it. How many of you understand? To get into the land flowing with milk and honey, the Hebrews had to put in some work. They really had to work for it. They didn't just come to them overnight, and they weren't taken from Egypt on somebody on Aladdin's carpet, magic carpet, taken right into Israel. Why is that? It doesn't matters how you finish. So to get from start to finish, if you put start on the left hand and you put finish on the right hand, what's in between that? A lot of space, isn't it? I want you to do that right now. Left hand, you see right hand, you see finish. And look at both of your hands. What's in between both of those hands right there? It's a lot of space, isn't it? It's a lot of space that can be filled in by you and by me. However we see fit to fill in that space. That's going to either get us to the finish or make us not finish. How many of you in this room are mark makers? Put up an MM if you're markers. You're mark makers, you're meeting. Put up an MM. Say, yep, Rabbi, that's me. And put myself in the glory of a mark maker. You see, you could be a mark maker or you could be a spectator. Or a mark speculator. I'm a mark maker. I'm not going to sit on the sidelines and be a mark spectator. It's not going to happen with me. I don't desire to be that way. I desire to meet my marks and go from strength to strength. Every asset and area of my life. That's what I'm going to do with the journey. Take advantage of your journey. We've been given tools by the Kohen and the Gate Rabbi Simon Altair to be able to take advantage of our journey. How many of you understand? A lot of people haven't taken advantage of their journey. You can sit here and you can just watch the people around you. Family members, friends, and loved ones. They haven't taken advantage of their journey, and they just go back road. They just go through life just like nonchalant. Or they just do life from one day to the next day to the next day. No affirming anything. They just there. Like the definition that I learned in science class in high school. You just matter. You have weight and you take up space. Don't just be matter. Don't just have weight and take up space. your energy, and you're flowing, and you're powerful, and you're mighty. You can do great things. For whatever your level of greatness is that you desire for yourself, you can do great things. One of the greatest obstacles in this journey is to find a husband or a wife. How many of you would agree with me? That's one of the great things that you can do. You know, I look at Nakshan, who's 9 months old, and I say, man. And you know, Nakshan has this habit, 9 months old, is he'll play with my wedding ring. I take my wedding ring off, and he sticks his little finger, and he wants to put the ring on. And he wants to put the ring on, and he wears it, and then of course, he's throwing everything. Now, everything gets thrown. Everything gets grabbed and thrown across the room. So, very far. So he just takes it, and he examines the ring, and he'll throw it. He takes the ring, he looks at it, and examines it, and he throws it. He's got this habit. He likes rings. Kind of weird. But that's what he does. I studied Nakshan. I'm a student of babies. I study my son. I pay attention to him because I learn a lot from him. So, you know, we have to get to the understanding that we can do great and mighty things. And we don't have to settle. You don't have to just settle for, you know, how your situation has been. You can change your situation. Like Akoi talked about in his lecture. See the situation, but then see the solution. There's a solution to everything that you're going through right now, so-called going through. There's a solution. Your journey is all about solution. And that brings me to this point that I really would like to make. Quite an interesting point. Akoi talked about it. But how many of you keep up with what the President of the United States is doing? Put up a P. If you keep up and you know, because remember, we're commanded in our books to pray for our leaders. So it's very important that we keep up with what our leaders are doing so that we can pray for them. We can meditate for them. We can, you know, strengthen them. And we can, you know, intercede on their behalf that the master of all things, the master of all creations can give him guidance and direction. Wow, not many P's are coming up. But you on YouTube, there's only one P that came up. But for all you Bible believers, I would encourage you to stand in the gap for all your leaders. What does leadership mean to you? For all your leaders. I tell you, this came to me this week as well. A lot of people don't appreciate what country they're in because they never left the country to go to a country. So you have no appreciation. How many of you in this room put up a capital C if you traveled outside the country? I'm telling you, you will have a higher appreciation. How many of you have been on a journey and you traveled outside your country? And you get outside your country, and before you know it, you get homesick like no man's business. You're like, man, I can't wait to get back home. And how many of you been there? Put up a capital H if you know what I'm talking about. You get homesick, you're like, man, I didn't realize how good, how good I have it until you step outside of your country. Until you get outside and you experience, another culture, a society. You get out there and you experience that, and you realize, yes, you really are, don't you? You realize, and this is why it's so important that we uphold and we intercede and we meditate for our leaders. I tell you, the leadership here in Texas is doing great things. Amongst all the so-called mumbo-jumbo increase in cases, that's a bunch of malarkey, man. That's a bunch of pig water. Texas is open, and Texas is going to stay open because we got the good leadership in there. We're not trying to hide under some sheets behind a corona. We're going to get out here and face corona face to face. Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem. Everything is big in Texas. So I'm not surprised that the numbers went up because everything is big in Texas, baby. That's how we roll in Texas. By the way, looks like Tesla's coming to Texas. Hallelujah. I tell you what, from strength to strength. Because we don't shy away. We don't shy away. Looks like Tesla's coming to Texas. Why? It's because I tell you what, the leadership of Tesla, listen, there are some wise people. They understand. There's some wise people. There's some very, very wise people. Very, very wise leadership. He talked about this last lecture. He talked about what state are you in. Some states are better than other states. Some states are more conducive for prosperity and wealth and abundance, while other states, they're constrictive. They want to keep you down. They want to keep you dependent instead of being independent. Baruch Hashem. So when I ask you how many of you are following the president, here's another test to see if you're a watcher and a witness. What significant event is going on today with the President of the United States? Anybody tell me? What significant? It's a very significant event, by the way. Has a lot of significance to it, by the way, that I'm going to open it up to you if you didn't know. What significant event, while you all are Googling it, what significant event is taking place right now with the President? Today. Today. It's happening today. What event is that? Anybody tell me? Eddie says first rally. There you go. He's having a rally in Oklahoma, Adelia says. Can you all be a little bit more specific, though? He's having a rally where? Where in Oklahoma? In Reno, Oklahoma? Where at in Oklahoma? Anybody tell me? Where is his first rally in Tulsa? To top of that, Eddies, you all need to get clued up on what the president's doing. I want you all to see that there's some powerful significance behind this. What do you all know about Tulsa, Oklahoma? Anybody know anything in the history of Tulsa? Anybody know? How come you did a lecture on this a couple of months ago? What do you all know about Tulsa, Oklahoma, children of Israel? Tulsa, Oklahoma has some heavy history, a lot of significance there in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Let me just say it for y'all. How about a Black Wall Street? How many of you ever heard of the Black Wall Street? Baruch Hashem. Black Wall Street. That's in Tulsa. That happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I want you to see the power. There's power in this. Now, what is the president trying to do right now, Eddies? His whole agenda behind his mission on this campaign is to do what? Greatness, isn't it? Then he's talking about, it's called the greatness campaign. What is it called? You might tell me it's called a greatness campaign. Something dealing with greatness. Why would the president, out of all places in the country, select Tulsa, Oklahoma for his first rally, where people come together? You're coming out of this corona mumbo jumbo, and you're coming out of this fear, and you're going to get together, and you're going to have a rally of positivity, a rally of greatness. While others may see it as however they want to see it. Because you got to have your negative crowd with the positivity. That's just how it is. Positive and negatives. That's how the world go around, by the way. But the first, now, I know maybe many of you don't know about Black Wall Street, but I want to encourage you to go to Amazon after the Shabbat and buy and get you some books on Black Wall Street, and particularly this one book. This one book I found and I purchased it. It's very interesting. It's called Black Wall Street, from riot to Renaissance in Tulsa's historic Greenwood district. I'm going to just read you a little summary of the book. Early in the 20th century, the black community in Tulsa, the Greenwood district, became a nationally renowned entrepreneurial center. Frequently referred to as Black Wall Street of America, the Greenwood district attracted pioneers from all over America. What did the Black Wall Street of America do? It attracted pioneers from all over America who sought new opportunities and fresh challenges. Not problems. They wanted fresh challenges, Baruch Hashem. Legal segregation forced blacks to do business amongst themselves during this time. The Greenwood district prospered as dollars circulated. You see that word? As dollars circulated within the black community. Circulation of dollars. But But get this, listen to this. But fear and jealousy swelled in the greater Tulsa community. Why? Fear and jealousy. The alleged assault of a white woman by a black man triggered unprecedented civil unrest. Civil unrest, does that sound familiar today? The worst riot in American history, the Tulsa Race Riot of 1921, destroyed people, property, hopes, and dreams. Hundreds of people died and were injured. Property damage ran into the millions. The Greenwood District burned to the ground. Burned to the ground, Mr. Paul. Ever courageous, the Greenwood District pioneers rebuilt and better than ever. By 1942, some 242 businesses called the Greenwood District home. Having experienced decline in the 60s, 70s, and early 80s, the area is now poised for yet another renaissance. Black Wall Street speaks to the triumph of the human spirit. Baruch Hashem. Boy, what an opener that is, right? Again, is there any coincidence why the president is having his rally in Tulsa, Oklahoma today? Think about that for a minute. Now, you Texans, let's talk for a minute about Juneteenth. That was yesterday. Juneteenth. What is this Juneteenth mumbo jumbo? Did anybody know about a Juneteenth in this room? Anybody? Put up a capital J if you know the history of Juneteenth. Capital J for anybody. Juneteenth. Another very important day in the history of America. Juneteenth. Put up a capital J if you know about some Juneteenth. You know the history of some Juneteenth. Well, for those of you who don't, then let me continue on and give you just a little brief history as well about some Juneteenth. I pulled this history out of Wikipedia so you can go get it for yourself. Originating in Texas, it is now celebrated annually on the 19th of June throughout the United States with varying official recognition. Specifically, it commemorates Union Army General Gordon Granger announcing federal orders in Galveston, Texas on June 19, 1865, proclaiming that all slaves in Texas were free. Proclaiming that all slaves in Texas were free in 1965. Now, full disclosure, Texas was a little late to proclaim this, but that's okay. But they did proclaim this, that all slaves in Texas were free. Juneteenth. Now, with all the events that's circulating and going on in the world today, Juneteenth and a lot of there's a culture of conscience now amongst the people of color, the blacks and the browns, to where through the misfortunes of some folks having to go through some mishaps, a lot of these things are now being exposed and uncovered in such a way to where things are getting done. Things are happening now. A lot of these big businesses have they gave their employees, I don't know, any of you were benefactors of this? They actually gave the employees off, the Friday off with pay. Any of you experienced that? Any of these big corporations that did that? Where they actually, a lot of these big corporations are honoring Juneteenth like they never did before, and they actually have given people of color, the blacks and the browns, the day off, which was Friday yesterday, and actually gave them the day off with pay. I find that very interesting. At the end of the day, you must understand that this is a very important part of our American history. Now, I would submit to you today that the spirit of Black Wall Street is still much alive. And I don't mean to say that to be prejudiced, I'm just putting out history. Black and brown Wall Street is still alive today. And the spirit is much alive for those of you who have embraced the perfect law. Because you do become wealthy. Be it black, brown, white, green, yellow, I don't care. Green doesn't matter with the perfect law. Now, another book I would highly recommend for you to do, because remember I talked about earlier at the beginning of the lecture, it doesn't matter how you start, it matters how you finish. This is another book that I circulated for myself. It's called Black Fortunes, the story of the first 6 African Americans who survived slavery and became millionaires. Now listen to some of what the commentary was given from Black Enterprises. Black Enterprises wrote this about the book Black Fortunes. The history mind in Black Fortunes will come as a revelation to many who will be shocked to learn that there was a black class immediately after slavery. Not years later, there was a black as in America immediately after slavery. This is what I told you. It doesn't matter how you start, it matters how you finish. Because many people still have the Juneteenth mindset. Oh, I'm a free slave. I'm a free slave. Okay, what are you doing with your freedom? This is why I highly recommend this book of Black Fortunes. Because, listen, I don't care. Money doesn't have a color to it. Money is green. Money is no respecter of what your color is. Whether you black, brown, green, or doesn't matter if you love money or hate money. But let me tell you this at the end of the day, Mr. Papa. You cannot dominate this earth without money. You cannot have dominion over this earth without. Does anybody disagree with that statement? Whether you love money or hate money, you have to have money in your life to survive from day to day to day. That's just it. Currency must flow. This is why I love the Forex. Because I love currency. Me and Forex have a relationship that lasts forever. I am Forex. I am bank. I am a banker. I am the bank. You see what I'm saying? So, regardless of whether you love money or not, you must come to the realization is that you have to have money to survive. You have to have money to feed you, your family, to take care of your needs, to clothe your body. That requires money. So that's the first part of it. The relationship with money is where you need to decide on what side of the stick you're going to be on. Whether you love money or not, money is going to be there. Whether you disagree and you live in a bunker, money's still going to flow. Currency's still going to flow. Whether you're in your bunker or you on top or you grid off the grid, money is still going to flow. Rabbi Kefa, why are you always talking about money? Because I love money. And I understand the benefits of having money. With money, you can do many, many, many things. How many of you would agree with me? Money can help you do many things can help you meet many marks that you desire for yourself. Helping others, starting up great foundations, philanthropy, all kind of great things that you can do with money. Look at these billionaires and millionaires that have money now. I guarantee you they're providing great service to a lot of people. Don't look at the conspiracy theory. Don't look at this, that, the other, the third. Look at they helping a lot of people. Money can do that. Money can make you, do great things for a lot of people. Now, some of you want to do great things for them, but that's on you. So, this book, Black Fortunes, it begins to tell the story of the first 6 African Americans who survived slavery and became millionaires. See, black wealth class, there was a black wealth class immediately after slavery. Immediately. Black Enterprises go on to say that a classic story of black resonance and the determination to upend a racist social order in the most meaningful, quantifiable way, but is also a cautionary tale about the unique challenges African Americans face in trying to build and sustain wealth. The journey is going to be about challenges, but understand you can go through challenges with the solution. You see, you have a challenge so that you can present the solution. And so that you can, at the end of the day, like Cody told me this morning, make yourself a better person. It would do no good for you to have the mindset of a slave after you're free. You see? And this is why you can get inspiration. Instead of watching all this fake news, you can read and get inspiration of people of your same pigmentation that have done great things right outside of slavery. Immediately after slavery, as Black Enterprises puts it. Publishers Weekly says this about the book of Black Fortunes. Incredible stories of 6 self-made African-American men. This highly readable group biography illustrates the ways those early millionaires survived assassination attempts, lynchings, frivolous lawsuits, and criminal cases, and in doing so, paved the way for Oprah, Beyonce, and Jay-Z. Shabbat shalom, Nashan, with his big smile. You guys heard that son talking. So this is what happens. How did Oprah get to be Oprah? How did Beyonce get to be Beyonce? And how did Jay-Z get to be Jay-Z? Who paved the way for these people? People who had already done it. This is why it's very important. It's very important that you associate with those people that have what you want. And then it's like a magnet. Then you will have it as well. You will have the same one. You will have the same things. You will have, and you want. It's just contagious. This is why when we talked about the groups, what group are you in when you get in this whole congregation of people? Are you in the group honey, Tisha? So are you with the people that are talking about 6 things and making money? Are you with the group that are gossiping and over here, over here chirping, like the birds about other people's business? Are you in the depressing over there in the corner that's always depressed and always the Debbie Downers? And if your name is Debbie, no offense, but you're with the Debbie Downers? Doug Downers over there? Your name is Doug, no offense either. You down this and you down that? Or you over here, that's over here protesting? Or you over in a group that's an angry bird? I mean, there's so many groups that you can involve and associate yourself with. But in today's time, we need to come out of this slave man, slave woman mentality world over. Not just here in North America, world over. It's just because you started poor don't mean you have to end poor. But just like you heard in some of the reviews of these books that I'm recommending that you guys get. I mean, who influenced Oprah, Beyonce, Jay-Z? Who opened the doors for opportunity for these people? It was people that was running for their lives. Yeah, making $1 50 cents and some, but they had to survive assassination attempts, lynchings, frivolous lawsuits, criminal cases. All these things were happening to them on their journey to success to become a millionaire. Right after slavery. Right after slavery. You want to know why they deal with all of these problems? It's because of jealousy. Jealousy, and then the byproduct of jealousy is hate, anger, resentment, because other folks didn't like seeing them get ahead. Other folks didn't like seeing them get ahead. What class you going to put yourself in? The mark makers or the mark spectators? The jealous types. And every time, and you go through this, and you keep reading in our history, but majority of the time, the problem stirred up because of jealousy. From the haves to the have-nots. And in between that is jealousy. Because the have-nots are jealous because they don't have. But instead of attaching themselves and affiliating themselves with the haves, what do? Hate the haves. They become haterade. And they hate and they drink up the haterade. Not the Gatorade. They drink up the haterade. And they just keep hating and hating and hating. Trying to put you down and prevent you. Just like the early pioneers, the people of color that were millionaires. Rabbi, why you just all the books on millionaires about? Because I am a millionaire. I am $1 million. I am $1 million. I'm $1 million in my businesses. I'm $1 million in the Forex. I'm $1 million in the stock market. That's who I associate myself with. And if you have to ask these questions, that means you're on the other side of the crowd. You're the spectator. If you have to ask these questions. Well, why are you out there? Because that's where my foundation is money. Millions, billions of dollars. Attached to my legacy is billions of dollars that I'm going to leave for my children and children's children. And they're just going to rinse and repeat it. And that's what's going to happen, Mr. Hall. You see, because let's take it back to our parasha. Just like those Hebrews were wandering in the wilderness, coming out of Egypt, coming out of slavery. That Juneteenth has taken place, Mr. Bahar. They come out of slavery. Moshe proclaimed that they free. You don't have to no more bricks anymore. You're free. They had their Juneteenth. They celebrated. They saw that Juneteenth take place. You know what happened? I want to learn from our forefathers, the Hebrews. They came out of slavery, of bondage. Juneteenth, they like to show a depiction of an illustration of chains being broken. You got two hands, they were bound, and then you sort of that the chains were broken. Okay. Now we really start. That was the start. When are you going to finish? I don't want to finish the first generation. Because guess what? I see myself as that first generation today in 2020. We need to learn from our ancestors. Learn the lessons and not make the same mistakes. I asked you earlier, what do you see as your land flowing with milk and honey? Not many of you responded. Maybe you don't know this today in 2020. But you need to. You need to know it like no man's business. Is that new home your milk and honey? Is that new husband your milk and honey? Is that new wife your milk and honey? Is that new car your... What is your milk and honey? The forefathers, they were told. They were told where they were going. They knew about the journey. That they were going to go to a land flowing with milk and honey. They came out of slavery. Slavery's on the left hand. On the right is this land, this promised land, flowing with milk and honey. And what's in between that? A lot of space. We realize what happened is that 99.9% of those Hebrews that came out of slavery never saw the land was promised to them. Yah forbid. Akori said they departed, they fought the honey, and she departed on her way. Indeed, Akori. Well said. And a lot of the women today that I've dealt with in my relations say this. If you don't have the money, you don't get money. How many of you men heard something I like? If you don't have the money, you don't get the honey. I've been told that many times in my relations with women over here in North America while I drink my tea. I tell you, you want to know something? Insider information? I have the best wife in the world. I do. Let me give you, I told this I quote you, but I tell you, and I've never had a wife, much less a woman. I've never seen my mother do this. profession, so I'm always wearing my, these particular kind of shoes they call Crocs. And so you wear Crocs and you wear your shoes, you wear your socks and Crocs. And I don't know what it is about Crocs and socks, but your socks, when you wear Crocs a lot, your socks tend to get these little holes on the heel a lot, very quickly. So I go through a lot of socks very quickly. A lot of socks. I go through a lot of socks. So I've never seen, and I tell you, I have such a love for my wife, more and more. And we go from strength to strength. And I have so much love for my wife, right? So much love. So much love. Let's do this real quick. And so it's based on this. So I have these holes. I have these holes in my socks. And my wife, I had the mentality to just throw my socks away. I just take my socks and throw them in the trash and blah, blah, blah. Everything is good. So I take my socks and I put them in the trash. Well, my wife takes my socks, takes my socks out of the trash, and what she does, she actually sews my socks. She mends the holes that are in my socks. And I'm like, my goodness, I say, honey, throw the socks away. She said, honey, I love you, and I want to make sure your socks doesn't have any holes in them. I'm like, my goodness, that right there, Miss Baha, I'm telling you, is no money in the bank. No, it's just that action right there. It filled me with a particular kind of love for my wife that I cannot describe. And to this day, in my work bag, I carry that sock around. That sock with a hole that was mended in it. Now, for you it may seem trivial, but for me, that's a lot of significance in there. And it's deeper than just mending a hole in the sock. Are you with me? It's a lot about caring. I thought I knew what the word care meant, being in a healthcare profession. But I mean, something that I discarded as trash, my wife saw as treasure and still had much use to it. Do you get it? How many of you get this? And man, I tell you, bring you to tears. Bring you to tears because you're like, wow. Never had I had a woman sew my socks, sew holes in my socks. Anybody ever experienced, has any of your wives, men, mended holes in your socks before? I've never seen that. I've just never seen. Now, full disclosure, my wife comes from the East. Full disclosure, my wife comes from China. Chinese. So, just full disclosure, I'm just putting it out there now. That's just my personal experience. So when I tell you that you can have whatever you desire, and believe me, that was one of my desires. I was talking to my wife about this last night. I said my desire was to get the best wife in the world. After going through many, what many may call failures, divorces, many may call failures, I didn't see it as that. I saw it as experience to make me what, Hakohim? To make me a better person. And to make me better understand what I really wanted, right? So for those of you who've been through some divorces, don't see the divorce as your finish. The divorce is just your start. It's your start. But for some of you, it's the start and the finish, and all that summed up, and kick, boom, and kabalo, kabing. No, it's just your start. Because you're going to move on from what? From strength to strength. Not from strength to weakness, to where, you're intimidated by marriage. Never be intimidated by marriage. Marriage is one of the greatest things that you can do in this life. You want to be great? Get married. Not just married to anybody, but you get married to a woman that's going to mend your socks. And she's going to fix the holes in your socks. That's a woman that loves you, man. Think about that for a minute. That's just not love with words. That's love with deeds. That's loyalty with a capital L. She sees something that I take as worthless, and yet she mends it, and she makes it workable. What a lecture that would be. Think about that for a minute. You don't think I'm going to honor, cherish, love my wife throughout eternity? Elolam Ba'ed? I surely will. Because on the daily, she exemplifies to me the epitome of the greatest wife on the face of this earth. And I say that, and I say that, and I know there are tons of men in this room and listening to you too that will respectfully disagree with my statement, right? And I totally respect that, because my desire is that every man in this room has the best wife on the face of this earth. Are you with me, Miss Bahar? And that's real. Now, in saying that, if right now your eyes are rolling in the back of your head, it's because you have jealousy. If saying that, you got kind of mad with me, opening up and giving you, a history on the best wife in this world, you have jealousy issues. If you're angry about what I just said, and you have jealousy issues, you're jealous. And you don't need to be that way. You need to let go of that jealousy and go out and get you the best woman in the world. The best woman in the world. Go get it. Go get it, because it's out there for you. It's out there for you. So this day, I want to encourage all of you to not follow in the same, learn the lessons of our forefathers. Believe you me, Ms. Farr, as you can tell, as being a watcher and a witness to what I just described to you, is that, my ending, my finish, is a lot better than how I started. You're talking about a man that's been through multiple divorces. I didn't just give up. You see? Woman of 10 says, you need to go get a knee thread. I like that guy, woman of 10. That's good stuff. That's good stuff. Do you understand? You understand what I mean? Learn from our forefathers. Is that our beginning don't be our end. Learn from them slaves in America, the black slaves in America. Just come out of slavery, boom, millionaires. They didn't have the mentality, we have this. There's still some folks today in 2020 with the same mindset. They see themselves as slaves. They see themselves in America as a slave. I'm like, no, I didn't pick nobody's cotton. I'm not a slave. I'm not a slave, and I don't have that mentality. I have the ability and capability, and even more so in 2020, tools to become a millionaire, to be a millionaire, to be a billionaire, just like Oprah. Who says you can't be the next Oprah? Who says you can't be the next Jay-Z? Who says that? Who tells you that you can't? You do. You can. I submit to you that there's less obstacles in your way. Once you get past your mountain, which is yourself, there's less obstacles in your way. How many of you in this room have an entrepreneurial spirit? How many of you in this room have that kind of spirit? You have an entrepreneurial spirit. You're an entrepreneur. It's in your DNA. Go out and get it. Matter of fact, go out and get it. It's in your DNA, Israel. Children of Israel is to do great things and be great at doing great things. That's just what it is, Mr. Hart. Today. Don't sit here and dwell on the slavery. Look, millionaires that became the slaves that became. You see, you got to start to feed yourself. Look at Greenwood District. Look at the Black Street, where the president is going to be speaking tonight in a rally. Black Wall Street, Tulsa, Oklahoma. That's American history. The spirit of wealth, the spirit of greatness is there. The president wants everybody to go out and be great and to show greatness and to do great things. Wealth begat wealth. And even more wealth. You got to start begetting. It's time, Mishpahah. How many of you would agree with me that we are that first generation coming out of Egypt, the spiritual slavery? Put up a capital G if you would agree with me. Is that we are that first generation coming out of Egypt, coming out of that. How many of you would agree with me? And we are that first generation. You understand that our history just repeats itself. That's what our history does. You want to know what's going to happen in the future? Look at what happened in the past. You, believe it or not, you and I that have come back and embraced Torah, we're that first generation that come back out of that mentality of building, making bricks and building all kinds of things for everybody else but ourselves. We're that first generation to wake up out of that slumber, to be guided out by a likeness of a Moses, to be guided out by the son of Aaron. Think about it. Do you see this picture? Look at it. Think about it. You guys are witnesses and watchers. The history just repeats itself. I mean, have you seen this? This is beautiful. Do you see the opportunity that is in our face right now? It's here right now. As we're on our journey. How many of you are going to meet the marker of your what? Milk and honey. How many of you are going to do it? I don't know what your milk and honey is. But you need to have that mentality of milk and honey if you ever think you're going to see a physical land. Meaning Israel. You better have milk and honey mentality. You can't have the mentality, oh, Rabbi, they bigger than us. You know, I'm never going to be a millionaire. Nobody's ever going to give me a loan. I'm never going to, I got this project I want to do, but nobody's ever going to fund me, Rabbi. I'm never, a lot of these companies are bigger and better than I am. What does that sound like? That sounds like the negativity of the spies. When you were already told the land is yours. And it's already filled with milk and honey. And you see it, but you just don't believe it. You saw the grapes. You saw the pomegranates. But you just don't believe it. But so you find anything that can, shoot you down and prevent you, any excuse from what you already are. Inheritors of great land. Yet you can't see the land because you don't even see milk and honey. You see the land and it's desolate and it's barren. Oh, woe unto you. So what can you anticipate? Desolate and barren land. That's what you can anticipate. It's because that's what you see. Yet you don't see the big grapes like what you're talking about. Carrying grapes on the spirit. My goodness. The beauty of life, the bounty of life. But you can't see that because, no, I'm still a slave. Matter of fact, in this partial, what did they say? Man, take us, a leader that's going to take us back to Egypt. You don't want that. You don't want to go back to slave. But yet, time and time again in 2020, we're seeing the same thing. People want to go back. They don't want first of all. They want to go back. They want to resort back to what they had at the beginning. It doesn't matter how you start. They want what they had back at the start. It matters how you finish. Take heed. A lot of great history of many blacks and browns that have done great things in America that's been washed under. That is not being amplified, as if I can put it. Being not seen as worthy, but the history is there, and the history don't lie. The Black Wall Street America was real. That was real, and it's still alive today for you blacks and browns, and for all you people, white, yellows, and greens. See? It's still alive today. But what you have to do is what you have to do. You have to invoke that spirit of a Black Wall Street and not of a black slave. Too many are invoking the spirit of a black slave or just slave man, slave woman mentality. And they wait for massa to give them their meals instead of making their meals for themselves. Waiting on master to give them the scraps. No need to wait on master. You are the master. You're a ship. Semi saying, hooray for the Ebonism colors that cover all human beings' colors, from the beige to the whites to the ebony browns worldwide. In the Vatican and Rome, the mother and child are ebony black. So all everywhere, be happy for what color you, me, we are born with. Oh, indeed, Simon. Because at the end of the day, it's really not about color, as they want to characterize it. Color played a role at its time in American history, but it's really not about a color. It's about what's your class. And a lot of people of color were in the millionaire class, coming out of slavery. It's about your class, like in ancient times. It was about your class. Who's your class? Who's your clan? It's not about color. It's about a character. How do you carry yourself? And at the end of the day, you want to make yourself a better person, don't you? I do. You want to make yourself a better person. And then the next day, you want to make yourself a better person. Then the next day, you want to make yourself a better person. So, look at our ancestors, the Hebrew. Look at our history, what happened here. Realize, remember. You men, when you look at your ZZ, you remember. Yeah, we were slaves at one time, but we're not anymore. We're princes. We're kings. We're leaders. We have the perfect law. When you see those ZZs hanging from the four corners of your garments, you remember perfect law. We have the perfect law. You're empowered to do great things. Remember that. Not a slave. Not a slave. You're a success. On top of a success, on top of a success, and you move from success to even more success. You are success. You are successful. That's what you are. So be it. And so shall it be. And I say to you in closing, let it be. Let it be. As you have said, let it be. Because that's what it will be. As you have said. I can say it till the cows come home. But as you have said, it will be. And I say, so let it be. On that note, we're going to wrap it up for the Shabbat. And I would encourage you to make sure you listen to the President's rally tonight in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And I want you all to remember Black Wall Street. Because there's gonna come a wave. I'm telling you, there's going to come a wave of prosperity. America's going to jump back like no man's business. And you all are going to watch it. You're going to miss it. Is that America's going to jump back like no man's business. I'm telling you. Corona can't keep America down. Are you kidding me, man? America's going to stand up just like Texans and stare Corona in the face. and stare Corona right in the face. We're not hiding nobody's house. We're going to stare Corona right in the face. That's what's going to happen. And we're going to move from strength to strength, to strength to strength, and more strength. But we give thanks all. We're going to give thanks always. So on that note, I'm going to wrap it up. I'm going to turn it back over to our Kohen and encourage you all to listen to the President and follow his doings. I mean, these things, how can you orchestrate these things? You know, Tulsa, Oklahoma, out of all places, first rally, come out of, confinement. Oh my goodness, there's a spiritual wave that's going to move here of success and wealth. You watch it. And I want all of you to ride that wave of wealth and prosperity and abundance. You can't hate money. How you going to have a relationship with money and you hate money? Come on now. You got to start loving money. And you got to start dreaming about money and reading about money. And that's important. That's important. From strength to strength. Yeah. Indeed, Uncle. Indeed. Strength to strength. Over you, Uncle E, and we'll wrap it up. You all have a great 6 days of labor ahead and show your greatness. And Shabbat Shalom and Shalom Shalom to you all. Over to you, Uncle E.
Yeah, Todah for that, Rabbi Kefa. Okay, so just to wrap up, tonight I gave you a time earlier that there will be a solar eclipse, and note down the time for your references. 12:49 a.m. That is obviously the new day, Sunday. 12:49 a.m. to 4:09 a.m. Now, just to let you know what that means, it doesn't mean the Messiah is going to turn up tonight, but it could mean your freedom from slavery, from the slavery of poverty forever. So if you write your affirmation tonight, or if you already have written an affirmation, and if you repeat it 10,000 times within that time, now maybe you can do 10,000, maybe you can only get up to 5,000, maybe you can do 3,000. It depends how long your affirmation is, and I'll keep it short. If you can do that, then your affirmation will become extremely, extremely powerful, that it will happen in your life. Now, remember what I just said. You got to repeat it as many times as you can within that time span. And after that, you give thanks, and you give something. Give some candy, or eat some candy. Give some candy to the kids as a thanks. And you will benefit from that. And it's like, normally, if you just said let's say you ran your beads 108 times on an affirmation, and if you ran it during the solar eclipse 1,000 times or 5,000 times, then it is like doing it 50,000 times, and that becomes sealed. So use that moment. Look out for moments like this. Look out for times when it's going to be solar eclipse or lunar eclipse. These are the best times to do your affirmations, and these are the best times for meditation. And don't run around like other Christians. Messiah is going to come, or it's going to be a bad omen or a bad time. No, these are the best times to do it. These are the best times for prosperity and best times for abundance. So, if America is going to be one of the more prosperous nations in the world, then you are part of America, and you will be some of the people counted in America as the prosperous people. Some of you are going to become millionaires and billionaires. So don't think, what shall I aim for? Shall I aim for 100,000, or am I okay with my pension? A lot of you still stuck on pension mentality. You need to come out of your pension mentality, and you need to think of an outrageous goal. What's an outrageous goal? You might say that you have $10 billion. That might seem like outrageous, but it is doable. It's doable. So unless you go for outrageous, you don't get there. Now, okay, so if you go for a $10 billion, you might say, I'm going to go for $10 billion. And you might not even make it to, I don't know, maybe you make it to 100 million. You start with 10 billion and you make it to 100 million. And the 100 million only needs to be multiplied times 10 to make it a billion. And there are, people invest in the stock markets all the time. These billionaires, some of these billionaires became billionaires from investing in stocks. They bought a penny stock, and the penny stock went from a 10 cents to $100 and something or $200. Do you know that Apple started with a penny stock? Think of the people that bought Apple as a penny stock. 1 penny stock today is worth $300 something. If you had 1 penny stock and you had 1,000 Apple stocks, multiplied with $300, you'll get to know how much amount that is. That is how easy to become a billionaire in life, if you really aim for it. So don't think it's not possible. It's possible. Now, it may be that, something is holding you back, and you put your best out there, or at least your part of your best, because your best is yet to come. Or you might say, I'm 70 years old and my best is done. I'm done. No, your best is yet to come. Your best days are yet forward, in front of you. They're not done yet. Because I hear people all the time saying, Rabbi, I'm 70 years old. It doesn't matter if you're 70 years old. Or Rabbi, I have a wooden leg. It doesn't matter if you have a wooden leg either. Your best years are ahead if you want it. If you want it. The big thing is if. Not when, not how, if. And maybe, you might think to yourself, I aimed for $1 billion, I only made it to 100 million. Now, would that be good or would that be bad? Think about it. Would it have been nice to leave a little fortune for your children? And you live comfortably for the rest of your life? And if all you did was made it to 100 million, not much more. Or maybe you were really in unbelief, and you kind of like part belief and part unbelief, and you fought, and you maybe only made it to 10 million. Now, is 10 million good or 10 million bad? Think about it. That's your thinking needs to be, sky is the limit. I always talk about my teacher. He's a great teacher, Jeff Lorde. I remember his name to this day, and I'll never forget his name. He said, the world is your oyster. And I remember that to this day. You have the perfect law. The world is your oyster. What do you want? It's not what I want. What do you want? You need to answer that question for yourselves. What do you want? Stop moaning and whining about this, that, Black Lives Matter. Who cares? Who cares about what matters? What do you want in your life? Do you want to be the richest man in America? The richest man, the richest woman in America? Or do you want to just be whining about it all the time? As I'm used to some people whining about it all the time. Oh, Rabbi this, oh, Rabbi that. No, stop whining and start aiming for the stars. You have been given a powerful, powerful system that comes right out of our holy books. Now, you can squander it, just like our forefathers did. Our forefathers, the first generation, they squandered it. And the Torah says only 2 people entered the land. And then the children entered the land, the second generation. You are a generation unto that generation that entered the land. Now you can squander it, and you can complain about America, and you can complain about your leaders. England, they can complain about Boris Johnson, or you can complain about Macron in France, or you can turn it around and use a perfect law to become the best that you can be, the best version of yourself. And you never look back. You don't care who is the leader at that time, because you are the best version of you, and you leave your children a legacy. That's where you need to be. So think about it carefully. Answer the question honestly. Where do you want to be? What do you want? Jesus asked the people that came to him, what do you want? A woman came to him. He said, what do you want, woman? He didn't say, what's your problem? Can I help you? He didn't say that. He said, what do you want? That's a big question to answer. When you answer that question and you give an honest answer, what do you want, then you're ready to receive it. Torah is all about receiving it. Torah is all about reception. And it's not about keeping one Sabbath right or keeping the festival correctly. Torah is about change of life, change of the way you live, change of circumstances. Do you really have Torah? I doubt it very much. Many of you even know what Torah is. You think you know it, but I doubt it very much. You yet to get there. So with that, I'll leave you for a great week ahead. Listen to the President today, to this broadcast, because if you're an American, then he's your President. Lift up your President in your prayers, because you should be. And those of you in England should be lifting up your Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, in prayers. And then you'll get somewhere in life. Now, as Rabbi Kefa said, you can follow his advice or you can reject his advice. And as I told you, things are not going to stop over here. Things are going to keep moving. You can either move from strength to strength, or you can be just somebody, another number that people can talk about. It's up to you what you do with your life. So I leave you with this. Shabbat Shalom, Shalom, Shalom to you.